point out in the highway quarterly report that there are two errors in those reports, both on the second and the third page. They were marked as completed, but they are not completed. We, as you know, we completed our intersection safety plan and our high-risk rural road plan. We are reaching out to the local municipalities to complete theirs. So the second part, which is grayed out on both of them, that does not mean they're complete. It's not completed. We have not started that process yet. So I want to just point that out to the committee that when they got into the packet, I didn't get a chance to review them before it went in. And so those are both not completed. But the end date instead of 2024 will be changed to the end of 2025 for both of those.
Sounds good.
Can I ask you a question on that, Scott? So on that second page, the goal, PWC approves endorsed updated plan by end of October 2023. I was just a little confused by that. It's a draft document. 1031 was the initiation, and then they said the second edition supported by January 18, 2024 meeting. So then what's next, or what's the...
So that's where ours is complete. We already took that intersection safety plan analysis to the committee, I believe, a while back.
Yeah,
did we not?
like a year ago.
Yeah, and so the dates on there are, so that's already been completed that in 2024. And so the part that's not completed is just the intersection safety plan for the local municipalities right below it.
Okay.
So that's why I said
that should be green and not blue.
Yeah, when he meant to have the blue was supposed to be the completed yellow. He completed the overall part of it.
Okay.
So it's a learning curve for us. We don't use the quarterly report program very often. So he meant to do the blue is supposed to be completed in yellow, and then the goal down below is supposed to be the not started.
The rural road plan for counties should, yeah, okay.
Right.
Now that makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah.
So both of them, the counties are complete for both of those. It's just that the municipalities is not. So we'll clean up that document to make sure it reflects more accurately next quarter.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Any other questions? Seeing none, we can move on to transit ridership report.
If I may, December is down a little bit. Traditionally, you can see December is typically a down month, with the exception of 2020. You get the holidays in there and less days and stuff like that. So that's why the numbers are down. We are to not forget about the weekend stuff that the committee is working on. You can imagine December being a shorter month, and now into January already and getting the information to you. So expect another month or two to get some information back to you on the options that you're looking at. What are the options that the public would have if the shared ride taxi were to be eliminated on the weekends? And so it's going to take us a little bit of time to get that in, because we don't want just to say this is an option, but give you some really good detailed information what those options are. It's one thing to say, well, go ahead and take Uber or Lyft. It's another thing to say there aren't any, or there's only two of them available, that kind of stuff. So that's what we're looking into to make sure that we're not just saying, oh, go do this, but then the public can't actually do that, and to make sure there's options for potentially wheelchaired or disabled people as well out there. So Charlie's working on that. Like I said, it'll take a little more time to get something a little more firmed up for the committee, and certainly be giving you drafts along the way.
Quick question for you, Scott. If I'm looking at this correct, in the bottom of that chart, it's $7.44 per ride. Is that what I'm seeing? Is that the average?
That's the fares per trip.
Or
That's the
full
fare that we
fare.
receive. Correct.
So that went up. So how did that affect the overall budget? Was it better or worse, or about the same? Because I know
About
we
the
just
same, because
increased.
the fare revenues, remember, we increased
Yes.
fares, and so that's why you see that the fare per ride, so thank you for pointing it out, is a little bit higher because we did increase the fares. But it's also offset then by the amount that the contract price went up for
Sure.
the vendor went up too. So it all is kind of going up, and you'll find out at the budget time what that does to the service.
Yeah, I'd
So
be
we start
interested to
talking
know
budget.
what the bottom line is.
Correct, and that's why we're trying to make incremental changes, as the committee just approved for nights and some weekend later hours, to try to look at that, and maybe weekend is coming too, right? To try to right size it and try to get live within our means budget wise.
I think overall it's a good thing that we're tracking it like we are, because we just got to keep an eye on this. It can get away on us too. So, thank you. Sure.
Yeah, the data's great. So the question, so total ridership, 58,000 versus, almost 75, so that's about 20, it is 20%. Boy, that's a big number, that's a big drop.
Yes, and if you recall, I just want to make sure I'm clear on this. Even though it says taxi ridership up on top, that's rides. And so it's not the number of riders, it's not 58,000 riders, it's 58,000 trips.
Okay, got it.
So if you remember, if you're going from your home to Piggly Wiggly and back, that's 2 trips. And so you might take it 5 times a week or 10 times a week. Someone else might only take it once or twice a year. And so that's where we have some of the other data about how many, when we were looking at the ridership individually, how many riders are on it at any given time, and how many people we actually serve is a different number. That's what we talked about when we talked about reductions, about how many people we were impacting specific people, not just rides. So I just want to make sure everybody understands the graphs as they're presented and data.
And did you have, and I can't remember if we covered that before or not, but did you have the total number of different people, like when we
Oh, yes.
looking at the bus?
Oh, yes, we can give you all sorts of data
That would be kind of
like that.
interesting to have
Yes.
too, just so we
Yes.
know how many different names of people that are actually utilizing this service. So, thank you.
Yes, we can get that to you in a nice chart and graphs and data.
All the stuff
That's-
we love.
Yeah, that's not a problem. To tell you, how many people took it an average of 20 times a year, how many took it 50 times a year, how many people take it only once a year. So we provided that data, I want to say 2 years ago, but please don't quote me on that paper.
That's probably why I don't remember it.
Right. It's been a while since we provided specific data like that.
Okay. Any,
Scott, can I go back to that
Sure.
metric that I had mentioned here? So thanks for, with regard to the ridership. So help me understand, exactly what do you think that's saying? When it's 20% less than the year before. What do we think is happening? What's causing?
I think you asked Charlie this very question, I think it was last month or the month before, something very similar. And one thing we looked at is, if you remember back in May, was we worked with interfaith caregivers, and that their ridership jumped up, and that May, June, ours decreased. So interfaith caregivers has a reduced or no cost to it.
Okay.
Ours has a cost to it. So they're finding other options. What was that?
Yeah, that went up this year. So.
Right, their ridership went up and ours went down.
Yeah, okay.
Almost mirrored each other. Now, we're not saying people have migrated that completely. It's also quite possible that a lot of the, I'll call it the Cedar communities of the world, are now providing better service to their constituents of, instead of us going out there all the time, you'll see a lot more of those private vans and minibuses around. Same thing with the Threshold, for instance. I'm looking right out my window every day out there, and they've done a phenomenal job of providing their own bus service, where we would, in the past, it was shared ride taxi, shared ride taxi, shared ride taxi, and they're very specific. And one of the issues with shared ride taxi is we can't get everyone everywhere at 8 o'clock in the morning. It's impossible. And so it's not like a school bus where we have a designated route, because we can't do a designated route with the shared ride taxi. So you can imagine they had to say, if everybody's starting at 8 o'clock, we have to have other methods to get people there. And so it's kind of their normal. So you take that with COVID, and people find different things, and maybe working from home, that maybe they were coming into work and now they're not coming in every day, to save themselves a little bit of money too, and their employer. So you throw it all into a basket, and we've been doing studies on it, and SurePac did a little study for us, and there's really no one panacea of this is it. I think it's just a combination of a lot of different things.
I appreciate that.
I think the city of Hartford and city of West Bend taxis, I don't think they've had a significant drop in their services that I know of. I think Hartford's actually increased theirs a little bit. So it's all give and take.
No, that's good, just,
Sure.
thanks.
any other questions?
I just have one.
Ms. Buck?
Scott, do you see this ridership, more people using it in the near future going up?
If you would have asked me that 2 years ago, I would have said or 3 years ago, without a doubt, knowing the baby boomers and the elderly population. But recently, either A, they're driving, or they're getting Amazon deliveries versus going to the grocery store. Maybe somebody else is going to them. Like I said, the local communities that are providing their own service versus relying on the county to do that service because they're more flexible and they can have somebody right on staff and jump in there and get a schedule for people versus 6 or 7 people calling the shared ride taxi for a ride. They can all go to the grocery store, the church, other community events together versus just individualistically. So it's a scattering. I don't know if I'd say right now that we're going to be seeing an increase what we have right now based on what our latest trends are. It just, like I said, if you had asked me a couple of years ago when numbers were kept going up and up and up, and then now they're not. And like I said, we're going to be looking at the weekend stuff and potential partnerships and looking forward to see what else we do to serve the constituents.
Thank you, thank you.
Any other questions?
John, I have a question.
Sure. Go ahead. Supervisor Newman?
Scott, do you have maybe this is too early in January, but do you have the total local share for 2024 cost?
I do not have that with me.
Okay.
Supervisor
I'm
Newman.
not sure that you would have had it, but
I think we're working on finalizing those right now.
okay. All right, thank you.
We had also that ARPA funds that were a little more flexible than in the past that we're
Okay.
trying to save and preserve for the next few years. So it's a balancing act,
Was that local share being covered by ARPA this year? Or?
partly.
Okay, but that'll exhaust those funds this year?
Not this
Or
year,
for
no.
24?
No, we'll still have ARPA funds left into 25, and we're hopeful for 26, but our contract rate for 25 is a little higher than what we had wanted. So Charlie's working on that right now to see how long those funds can last. So we're definitely using them in 25.
Okay, thanks.
Everybody's good now? Okay, let's go into 3C, lead lateral update.
You'll have in your packet the latest update. I do want to point out one update since then. I was contacted by the City of West Bend today, actually looking for the reimbursement request for several of the projects they had completed in their municipalities in 2024. So that's very positive. That we'll get that paid out here shortly, within probably another. If they submit it this week, probably takes us 2 or 3 weeks to get that all processed, but we will get that processed. It's nice to get another one under our belt. I am happy to say with the report that the Village of Kewaskum is complete and paid off. So that's a great thing that we got one more community in Washington County that does not have lead laterals. City of West Bend is diligently working on theirs. They did bid out the 7th and 8th Avenue project. I was told that was potentially to get going, but I honestly have not driven through that area to see if any work's been started yet on that. It's definitely been a different type of winter where they could definitely possibly still start that work. But I really haven't driven through there. Also working with the Village of Slinger. They are working on a firm or two to get their work done, so they'll get their work done, and we'll be extending into the City of Hartford. We contacted them. They are interested. I just haven't had a chance to sit down and discuss the details with them yet.
Okay. Great, thank you.
Good to hear. Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to D, mailbox policy update.
So this might be new for several of the committee members here, and this is just the previous committee had asked us to provide an update after we've gone through with the new policy, and so that's why we're bringing this to you. The committee had made a change that one option that the landowners would have if their mailbox was damaged would be providing them just a check for $80. Here's $80. You take care of yourself. You imagine when we go out there, we put a post in the ground with a typical black mailbox on top of it, and that's what we do. If they had a pink one or a green one, they get a black one back. And so if they want to have their own personal style, they can take the check for $8 and put their own post back up. But also recognize that most of the hits we do, almost all of them, are in winter. And so sometimes it can be very challenging for the homeowner to get their mailbox back up in time, especially digging through the frost in the ground and all that kind of stuff. So we also left the option that if they wanted us to replace it, we would do that. One of the bigger changes in there is our policy used to be if the mailbox was damaged by the snow getting pushed, that's your problem. It was hit by our plow, then that's our problem. And you can tell pretty closely. If you hit it with a plow, it's damage, it's gone and stuff. It's just kind of leaning a little bit. That was probably just the snow. And there was a lot of discussions about that with landowners, and it took up a lot of time. And we said, all right, if it was either the snow or the plow, we're going to give you $8 or replace it. The only caveat is if your mailbox was in such bad condition that it just basically fell over on its own, you don't get either. You're responsible for it. And our guys are pretty much run the same sections. They know the areas. There's mailboxes out there. If you drive the area, you'll see some are bungeed together. They're already leaning before winter starts, that kind of stuff. And those we just say, no, sorry, citizen, you're on your own for those. And we have a handful of those as well. That's why you see the numbers in here. And there's a small little chart in there because I like to provide charts and data to you. So you'll see a little chart in there with how many chose the $80 check, how many chose to have the county fix the mailbox, and then how many mailboxes were in such poor condition that we did not take any action. So that's it. I mean, that's what the committee had asked to request for, and we certainly would appreciate the policy has been helpful to staff that take the phone calls and staff that are out in the field, and we are not requesting any policy change at this point, but just to update you on the numbers from last winter season, I should say.
You know, I kind of have one question in regards to this. Do we have cameras on the front of, or, you know, are we taking pictures as the guy plows?
We do not.
Okay. Because that would kind of show it, right? What's happening?
I don't know because sometimes it's very dark and very snowy, and I'm not
Oh,
sure how
yeah.
good that camera would
That's
be.
true. And the windshield's probably full of snow and, yeah.
I've seen some good videos out of plow trucks, and I've seen some bad videos out of plow trucks. So I know there's someone else in here that's plowed and maybe has a better opinion of it than I do, or two of you that have been in a plow truck. But we do not have cameras in it right now.
Okay, thank you. Oh, sorry, Supervisor Hartwig?
I know from my experience plowing, if you kept it around 25, 26 miles an hour, the slush went right underneath, if they had the mailbox at the right height. A lot of times they had them lower, and then the slush would knock them right off.
Sure,
So I
understood.
dealt a lot with this.
Okay, sounds good. Any other questions? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next thing, the roadway shared services update.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You'll see in your report, again, the shared services, which I hope you're all very familiar with, that we're doing for quite a few of the local municipalities. This is the roadway shared services. In that report, of course, another spreadsheet on the right-hand side for 2024 and the funds that were allotted to each municipality and how they were spent. As you can tell on the bottom of page 1, 2024, we actually used all of the funds, all of the $452,000, except for $51.92 for the town of West Bend. So very close. We were our staff, Mickey Supernant in our office, does a great job of keeping track of the data and providing it to town so they can get to as close as they can as possible, because some don't want to spend over that dollar amount. And the work that we completed was culvert replacements, vegetation removal, either grass mowing or trees or shrubbery, some paving, crack filling, mastic, which is basically like almost like a hard crack fill that you can drive over. It becomes very hard. Chip sealing, little chips on the road, pavement marking, and then grading shoulder, ditching, traffic counters, guardrail, bridge inspection, and we did some maintenance on vehicles for certain towns, and we'd actually let some rent some of our plow trucks in the winter when theirs went down last year. So very pleased with how the 2024 season ended up. It was our first year doing it. No doubt it was a challenge the first year, because it's the first year just with any new program. There are challenges to it. Our guys, all the crews and foremen and supervisors really stepped up and did a fantastic job of coordinating. There is a extreme amount of level of effort in coordinating projects with municipalities, especially when you see the list that long, and all of them have different nuances of what they wanted done. So it wasn't just that we just said, yep, you're only getting ditching, you're only getting crack filling. We might have done crack filling and ditching and a culvert repair for any given town, city, or village that's on that list. So it was, we did let them, the local municipalities, decide on what to do. We are now striving for 2025. You can see the dollar amount went up slightly. There was also a change in the methodology on how that funds were awarded. We had the chief elected officials from all the municipalities come together to a meeting. They had previously elected a chairman, Mr. Newman, that's in audience here today, and then they decided on how those funds would be split up. The county board chair was not at that meeting. The county executive was at the meeting. They decided, and last year they went 70% based on mileage, and 30% was kind of an even split of the funds, or even splitting them up. This year they decided to base it 100% on road mileage. That's why you see some of the numbers. If you want to know why did Edison go from 33 to 36, well, that's based on road mileage and how the formula was based out. A couple of the bigger ones were Town of Germantown and Village of Newburgh. Obviously very small, less road mileage. Because they don't have that equal share, there's one down from about 10,000 down to about 2,000 to 3,000. But that was voted on by the committee. One dissented on that. And so we have received most of the municipalities, maybe 3/4 of them back what work they want done this year. We are already meeting with several of them that wanted vegetation. My patrol super out of Slinger is meeting with Town of Arion today at 10 o'clock to discuss what vegetation they want removed. It's great winter work for our crews. So we're getting going right now already. We'll see bills come out in January. And what this program is originally come up by the county executive, and a great program, part of the shared services, is that the municipality then does not have to pay for the equipment or labor time, just the materials. And so if you can imagine, if we're just doing vegetation removal, there's very minimal material cost to that. Now, if they want to have like a buckthorn or something they want to spray on it, there might be a little material cost, but basically nothing, or mowing the vegetation. Now, if it's crack filling and putting the tar down, well, they're paying for the tar, and the other stuff is free. And we encourage them to work with us, and many municipalities work alongside our crews to save even more time and have that dollar spread out just a little bit further if they're willing to do traffic control or part working on the crack filling crew, or whatever the case may be, to work with us. So it's been a great program. At the meeting we had in September, I heard all positive things. Haven't heard a negative comment yet on it, besides just maybe a little more funding than what they have right now. But I think it's been extremely successful. We're looking forward into 25, and hopefully that's something that is supported into the future.
Yeah, that's been my feedback as well for the 3 townships that I represent. All of them have said that they love this. They think they get more out of this than the shared revenue. So I don't know what you other members have heard, or if you've heard anything from your constituents.
I'm not a beneficiary at this point.
Okay.
Sorry, City of Hartford was not included.
Oh, okay.
With the report too, Mr. Chair, on the second or third page of the reporting attachment, it does kind of show a month-by-month breakdown too of when we did that work. So you can see last year we got a little bit slower start just because our first year, but again, with vegetation removal now, we'll be able to push some of that work that we did in December a little bit earlier into the year.
Yeah, it looks like May and what is that, September, pretty busy.
Yeah.
So, any other questions? Seeing none, we will move on to the County Highway M update.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This County Highway M project from Pioneer Road to State Highway 60, we originally had planned on that being all completed in 2025. Unfortunately, with right-of-way delays and now utility delays, we're very concerned if we try to push a 3-mile project in and delaying the start of the project in the beginning of the year because of utilities and right-of-way, that the project will extend late into the season. And when you pave late into the season, if it's too cold, they got to put additives into the pavement. And so that's very expensive. It also allows us to break the project up a little bit with the intersections. We had heard some comments and feedbacks. We did 3 miles of Highway P just this past year. Is that why did we do that all 3 miles at one time and close Sherman Road and at Western Road at that time as well, intersections. And so learning our lesson, and with stuff that's kind of beyond our control a little bit, I decided that it'd be best off to do a 1 mile stretch of roadway and do the intersection of Western, and do a 2 mile stretch next year. It also allows us to stagger out some of our staff time for inspection on that project as well. We got a long paving project out on County Highway D from Colesville to Kettleview South this year as well that the inspector will be on. So it allows us to save some money on that end too. So, and we're still dealing with the DNR on permitting some of the areas as well. So we're still efforting on that. So I'd be happy to take any questions you may have. We had sent out a letter already to everyone that's on that route to make them aware of it. I did send a copy of that letter, attach a copy of the letter to the report as well. So we're not looking for any additional funding. We're hoping that between what we're doing with the inspector, as well as not having to worry about any utility delays by the contractor, you can imagine if you haven't dealt with utilities, it's We Energies has to move their poles first, and they usually want to get all done, and then the next person wants to put their stuff on the poles, and then the next one puts their stuff on the poles, and the contractor doesn't want to work around those people because they just come and go whenever they want. So there's very little control we can have over that. So by doing this, they'll still hopefully get their utilities moved this year for our 26 project. When we met with the utility companies last week, Thursday, they're extremely appreciative because the pressure is now off of them. They can get the stuff done in that mile stretch. They think it was in a timely manner, and we move on. I want to also point out that with the farmers that are out in that area, that to kind of condense the schedule down, they'll be able to get in their fields in spring without us interfering. The school children this spring will be able to ride their bus like normal once they intersperse the bus. But if they're collecting hay in summer, well, they're going to be impacted, but that's regardless of their schedule. And then again, if they're a late season collecting up their crops in the field, especially corn, should be okay. Soybeans, we're still right around that same time. We know that. So that's what I have for the report, and that's what we'll be doing. So,
Yeah, and just as a reminder to the committee, because the funds haven't changed, we already voted on the funds. We don't need to vote on this. It's just an update on the progress. So thank you for that. However, the next one, resolution 2024 resolution bridge and culvert aid replacement. I'm going to need a motion in a second. Motion from Supervisor Vespalic, second from Supervisor Hartwig. And Scott, did you want to just give a quick little update on this? I know this is standard stuff that we do.
Yes, the town of Wayne did a great job applying for some bridge aid on two bridges up in the town, on West Bend Road and on Beech Nut Road. With this, again, we're very fortunate where they were actually able to receive 100% of the funding for the actual bridge construction themselves. However, the state is not paying for 100% of the engineering costs or potential right-of-way that might be needed as part of that bridge project. So the town has requested up to $15,000 for each structure for those costs that might be associated with that. It is possible it's less than that, but that's what they're looking at right now. Because just don't know what right-of-way costs are going to be and all that kind of stuff. So they put a little cushion in there. So very happy with the state program that they decided to fund near 100% of this cost for the Brush Bridge construction itself. So you can imagine normally it would have been 20% paid by the town, 10% paid by the town, 10% paid out of this fund, and 10% of $671,000 is $67,000, but they're only requesting up to 15. So that went a long way, and I know there's other municipalities in the county that are taking advantage of this program. We don't know how long it's going to last. That's part of the bill funding that went through. So it's very good for those towns to take advantage of this, and we've had several that have been fortunate enough to be able to do that.
Okay, any questions? Seeing none, we'll take a vote. All approved, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No opposed. Motion carries. Next meeting is February 20th, 2025 at 3 o'clock. We'll see you all there. This meeting is adjourned.